Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
Does it fade quite quickly?
Yeah, I mean, that hadn't been washed since having it been done because it was only a couple of days. And it's only had one wash now, but I washed it twice because of the bleach in it, because it just like all goes crunch and sticks in this lump on the back of your head. And I'm like, oh, why did I let her bleach it? I do that I don't let her bleach it often for that. But yeah, it's worked.
No, it looks nice. I can't see the blue as much, but I can
see the purple. I want a little bit more blue, I think, and purple up there for it to be perfect. But this was the first time we'd tried this, and I've had some gel nails put on.
Wow. Very nice. Grace is going to love your hair, by the way. Oh. She will want unicorn hair as well.
It's the best way to be.
Absolutely.
Unicorn hair is very liberating.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. I've thought about dyeing my hair pink. A, I don't think it would suit me, and B, I can't carry it off, I don't think.
That is a major point. I've had some funky hairstyles in my time, and you go in there and you think, right, I've got to live up to this, baby.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, I've created an image and now
that's it.
I need to...
And I found I did, thank God.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I did find the exact same thing when I was between brunette and blonde. I feel differently about myself when I'm brunette to when I'm blonde.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. How weird is that? You can't even see your own hair most of the time.
No.
But you feel a difference, and you feel a difference in the way that people react to you as well, I think.
And that's another question.
Yeah.
Deep thought question. Yes, that could give us many angles, couldn't it? But you like deep thought, don't you? That's one of your...
I live for it.
I want to know all about it. So, I mean, I am looking forward to this deep thought experience that you are providing for us, a limited invitation-only number of us. I am one of the privileged few, feeling very gracious. But I've also had the joy of experiencing a retreat that you put on, which was just, I don't have the words, it was just glorious. And that doesn't do it justice.
Well, thank you.
But it was obvious to not just me, but to every single one of the people there that you'd put a lot of deep thought into it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I spent a long time curating the way that I wanted people to feel. And I had in mind that I just wanted to create these little moments of wonder and these little moments of just capturing a new way of thinking or seeing, or just like that sense of awe and wonder was really important to me. And I didn't want to kind of like overly curate it or overly prescribe what that should look like, but that there was an opportunity for that to arise whilst you were there. And I think the venue kind of carried a lot with that as well, because it was chosen because it had exactly the right kind of feel and exactly the right kind of setting for that to be able to happen. And then it was just kind of creating extra moments and extra kind of opportunities for that. So it was a difficult balance to get, I think. But I just sort of tried to do it as what would I enjoy? That was kind of the basis of it.
Well, it worked.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, it worked 100%. I mean, this year I will walk the labyrinths because I didn't do that last year.
Yeah, yes.
For various reasons that, and I don't regret it. It would have been nice to, of course it would. But, I just know that I will experience it this year and wholeheartedly.
Yes. So. Yeah, I didn't get to do those either, and I really wanted to do those. And I thought, well, I'll arrive early and then I'll get the chance to do it. But of course, there was too much to do and I didn't get to do it. And then we had to leave quite quickly. But
sucked in. Yeah, me and you were the last to leave, weren't we?
Yes, yeah, we were. Yeah. But again, this year for me, I want to do the labyrinths too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Hold each other accountable for that.
Perfect.
They are going to happen. Yeah, I did find the trampoline though.
I know you did, didn't you? Yes. And we've got that video of Sarah just like happily bouncing up and down on it as well.
There is one of me and one of Tony as well.
I haven't seen those.
Okay. I shall correct that later on today.
Yes, I request you send them over.
I shall correct that, yes. There's a whole load of girly squealing and I'm not telling you which version it's coming from.
Everyone.
But yeah. I just thought I need Sarah to sort of, and Tony respectively, to sit in the hanging pumpkin.
Yes.
And chill and,
yes,
just be with their thoughts. And I definitely distracted Sarah when I found the trampoline. And after a while, there was, something for her to hear.
And that was the beauty of that location, is that there were just these little moments, just as you wandered around, where there was a very different kind of feeling to each different, like there's a pumpkin where you can just sit and they've got the sound bars that you hit and it just has one feel. And then you've got the bouncy, whatever, the trampoline, which is a different feel. And then you've got all these different corners and different areas that you come across as well. And I don't think I even explored half of it. And the second time I went there, I saw more than the first time I went there. And I was like, I didn't even know that was there. So all those things add in, I think, to an experience.
I completely agree. And the fact that the room that I was staying in was hidden behind a tapestry-padded door.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
I mean, in itself, a tapestry-padded door, you might think, but it was because of the building it was in and the feeling that was there, that it just added into this sort of mystical, kind of element to it.
Yeah.
Which was just,
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. And we were saying earlier how when you're doing something, it can be quite stressful and lots of things like that are quite stressful. But I just really enjoyed the process of creating it and thinking about what we could do. And then also when I was there, I think it was partly due to the team as well, because we had obviously Kate cooking and we had Julia helping, and they were just wonderful to work with. Like everything was just seamless and work beautifully together. And I think you also need the right people around you, don't you, to kind of bring it all together and allow you to feel peace when you're doing it. But I felt really peaceful. I loved it, really loved it.
Which is glorious. And I'm so glad that you did, because from a purely selfish basis, it means I can experience it again this year.
Yeah.
But it was just the joy of the free-flowing conversation.
Yes.
With other people as well, in the down times, in the quiet moments.
Yeah. Yeah, and that library that they have there just starts its own conversations, doesn't it? Because you can just pick up a book and be like, oh my goodness, what's this one about? Because it's like a mixture, wasn't it, of kind of like esoteric stuff, spiritual stuff, more kind of sciencey based philosophy, psychology, like all of the different disciplines, but in this beautiful space where you could just pick up a book, sit down in a chair and discover something completely new. It was brilliant and great at starting conversations.
Absolutely. And to be surrounded by the energy of the crystals.
Yes.
And the runes.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting. I was sitting down and talking to Liz. She'd been up in the library and brought down this bowl and with the crystals in, which had got runes engraved within them. Mm-hmm. And her interpretation of the rune, her understanding the way she saw runes, was completely different to mine.
Oh, wow, really?
In the sense that way back in my past, in my late teens, I was part of a group who were very pagan, and we used the runic alphabet in some of our writing as a language.
Oh, wow.
So that was my approach to it.
Okay.
And so I knew the runic alphabet. I can't remember all of it now, but, I knew it. But Liz's approach was that the runes are symbols that have a meaning embedded within that. And so that sparked off a fabulous, unexpected conversation as well.
Definitely. And that's the beautiful thing about people coming together with these different perspectives on things, isn't it? Yeah. That you can kind of discover something new just by listening to somebody else's perspective on it, or their context around it, or their history with it. It's magical. Yeah. In its own way.
Because I can't remember, we both picked a couple up and I just went, oh, the letter K, oh, the letter H. And she's like, what?
Yeah.
No, that's so-and-so. This means,
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, I've always known them as symbolic. I've never really worked with the runes, but I've had a rune reading done before. And it was the sort of symbols rather than the alphabet.
Yeah.
But because it's used in, have you heard of Huna?
No, tell.
I think that, I don't know much about it, but I think they use the kind of symbols in Huna as well. But I don't know a lot more about it.
That is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like the hieroglyphic.
Yes.
Different characters, which I suppose looks a little bit more like a Japanese or a Chinese kind of writing these days in the modern world. That's got a lot of history behind it.
Yes. Yeah. And the way that you can have one symbol and that one symbol means lots of different things depending on the context, which I suppose is the same as words nowadays, isn't it? Like words can have different meaning depending on the context that you're using them in. But I think with symbols, there must be a whole load more meanings than we can kind of ascribe to just a word now. So it leaves it so much more open to interpretation. And it must be so difficult for people who are kind of trying to find meaning and translate and interpret those, because you're doing it in today's context. And of course, then there could have been a completely different context. So you don't even know if you're getting it right.
Which is fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, I'm reading the Napoleon Hill book, Outwitting the Devil. Yeah. I mean, I only got it 2 days ago and I'm already just about 100 pages in. And bearing in mind, life goes on as well. For me, that's reading pretty speedily. And he wrote this, a century ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just at the point now, I'm just about to start reading where he's interviewing the devil.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
For what
it's
people
so
have been saying, I'm just like, oh my God, he's already interviewed his internal counsel. And we're going to go and interview the devil now. And that's about interpretation as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
The symbolism then 100 years ago
Yes.
should have been a lot different to what it was now. But the way he describes some of these things, nothing's changed.
No, it's ever thus, isn't it? It's ever thus. And even though all the contexts change, there's still the same patterns that are going on. And I remember even at school, when we were getting ready to, it was fifth form, so we were getting ready to do our GCSEs. And my school only went up to fifth form, and then you had to go to another school because they didn't have a sixth form. And I remember we all started falling out with one another. And we were complaining to our teachers and being like, we're all falling out with each other. I mean, I went to a girls' school, so we fell out with each other all the time because we were girls. But she just turned around to us and went, it's nothing new, girls. This happens every year. Every single year this happens. And of course, we thought it was unique to us because we were teenagers and everything was, we were the first ones ever to feel like that, of course. But she was like, this is how it's always been. This always happens at this time of year. We don't really know why. It's probably because you're getting ready to leave one another. And so there's this kind of underlying conflict and this underlying grief that you're experiencing. And it just comes out as kind of this chaotic way that you're relating to one another. And it's sort of got me thinking about, well, there's probably like lots of other things where we go through the exact same patterns throughout the whole of history, and we think it's unique to our time. And it's not. It's just the context that's unique to our time. But the same pattern has been going on forever.
Yeah. And I reckon most of the population don't even stop and think about it.
No. And that's what I love about kind of going a layer deeper with your thinking, is that you're looking at these things and you're sort of thinking to yourself, okay, well, if that has actually been going on a really long time, then what is that saying about us? Is it kind of like an inherent trait of humanity, or is it something that we've just never looked at long enough to want to change it? Or is it something where we're kind of just directed towards a particular pathway because that's the expectation that we've had forever, and just really examining those things that we think of as being normal or right or the good life or whatever it is, and going a layer deeper with it and just seeing what's true then.
Finding all those rabbit holes.
Yeah, yes.
Preferably not falling into them.
I love falling into a rabbit hole. I've got to say, I can lose days to a rabbit hole, but I enjoy it. And you're right, because you have to come back out of the rabbit hole. Because otherwise, how do you apply anything? If you just stay down in the rabbit hole, then you're not actually in life, you're just down the hole. And so you have to be able to kind of like apply it to your life at some stage and come back out of it.
Take what you need from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we can get lost there.
Yeah. Have you got any favourite rabbit holes?
Oh, so many. I think I love a good conspiracy theory. Funnily enough, not because I'm a conspiracy theorist, but because I think that there's this half-truth about so many aspects of so many different things. and I think are like, it used to be, if you talked about aliens, like when I was little, if you talked about aliens, then it was just a fun conversation that people had at the dinner table. It'd be like, oh, imagine if we went into space and we met these aliens, and what would you say to them, and how would they be on planet Earth? And all of those kind of things were just like fun conversations. Now, if you mention aliens, even in passing, it's like, oh God, like get your tin hat out. You must be a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, why have we suddenly decided that any conversation about anything that is not just the accepted norm is suddenly like, you're a pariah because we can't talk about that? And I hate that kind of culture of like anything that we don't know, like want to talk about, isn't kind of where we're at right now. We're just going to bury it under a title that means that if you talk about it, we're going to categorize you in a way that means that you are now on the outside and we're all going to be on the inside because we're good and talking about the right things.
Yeah. My God, do I want to stay on the outside?
Yeah.
Please don't ever put me on the inside. Do you think that has got worse in the last 5 years?
I think
due to changes that happened.
Yeah, I think that what I have seen happening is that we have started to put lots of things in the bucket of conspiracy theory that were never in the bucket before and that just weren't a thing before. And of course, we've had the whole COVID thing. And so there's been loads of stuff around, you know, are you an anti-vaxxer or a vaxxer? And are you buying into all of this stuff? And then suddenly there was this kind of explosion of like how to talk to your loved ones about being a conspiracy theorist and all of these kind of things. And I found that almost more crazy than the idea that we would just sensibly talk about, is this something that we should be forcing on people, or is it something that actually we maybe want to think about a little bit more? And that to me was a sensible conversation to have. Like,
I agree.
We should have those conversations. And so to see there being this really divisive thing being put into play where people couldn't even talk about it without suddenly being the subject of derision and of hate towards you was way crazier to me, way crazier. Like, we should have those conversations. It's only right to have those conversations. And you land wherever you want. Of course, you land wherever you want. And that's fine. And whatever you feel is right for you should be the thing that is right for you. Yeah. But the fact that we couldn't even talk about it without being thrown in a bucket was crazy.
Yeah, it was very, very polarizing, wasn't it?
So polarizing. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, there were conversations that just, even just in the pub, you know, where it was kind of like, well, obviously, you know, have you got yourself? Well, don't come near me. You know, it's just like, I get it. And it's not that I don't understand it or how people were scared, of course. But for it to have been so heavy on the hate, and that's another thing that is everywhere at the moment, is this kind of like hate stuff towards everything and everyone. And it's just, you know, I'm like, oh, just my head in. Just
I think it's come more out of that because people were so polarised. It was easier to form those like and don't like beliefs, and it's built from there. Yeah.
Yes. For and against. Yeah. And I do think that has forever been thus as well. I mean, you've got to pick a side, right? You're in the war, you pick a side in the war. You know, you're in any kind of battle that you're in, you pick a side. And if you float between and you haven't made your mind up, then sometimes that's almost seen as worse, like that you know, you're just not standing anywhere. And I understand that too, but when you've got just two very clear sides and you're being asked to pick a side and you don't really want to because neither of them sound particularly appealing, then where are you and how do you manage that? And it's hard.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost as though it's a sign of weakness if you don't choose to be on one side or the other, isn't it? And sometimes, I mean, let's face it, the choices that you're given,
I don't think that often we are in a position to make an informed decision about things because we don't have enough information, or there's too much information to be able to go through it all and come to an informed decision. It's like when we had the kind of vote on Europe and things like that. I didn't vote because I didn't feel like I knew enough about it to be able to cast a vote that actually was representative of what I actually felt and knew would be the right thing, because I didn't know.
Yeah, it seemed to come about very quickly, that.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
And it's a huge topic, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, very divisive, very divisive. Whether you were for or against, people were vitriolic in the way that they treated you.
Absolutely. You couldn't talk about it if you were in one camp and you knew the people you were talking to were in another. You actually maybe didn't even want to talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's also something to be said for picking a side and getting off the fence, because that's how you kind of come to your own clarity and your own certainty. But being forced into that position by other people is not, I don't feel is healthy either, because if you're talking about how do you kind of maintain good mental health and all of those kind of things, then yes, at some point coming to clarity and making a decision is really important. But being told what that decision should be is not actually helping anyone's mental health either.
No. What would you like to see then? More opportunities for deep thought, or?
Yeah, I think that we are missing a lot of critical thought in schools and critical thinking. I think in some ways we're getting better at it because we're being offered more varied viewpoints because we have access to the internet and people can learn for themselves. We're not restricted to, what books are available in the library and what books are, are out on loan and what you can get access to. So there's a lot more access to being able to form a viewpoint that's informed. However, at the same time, we have this kind of massive amount of disinformation and false information. So it's easier and harder. But I think if you teach the skill of critical thinking from an early age, and you get very young children to say, well, what do you think about that? And how do you know? And how did you come to that conclusion? And it can be really small things. Like with my daughter, she'll be like, and with Noah as well, when he was little, he's 20 now, but when he was little, I remember having a conversation with him just about taking sides in like, they're playing like wars or whatever. And it's like, these are the goodies and these are the baddies. And I was like, well, how do you know? It's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, how do you know that they're the baddies and you're the goodies? I was like, I don't know. It's like, but that's important to know, because I'm pretty sure that the baddies don't go, we're the baddies. They think they're the goodies too. So how do you know? And just asking questions like that, or just, when they've got a situation to deal with, instead of immediately going, right, you should do this, it's saying, okay, so what do you want to do? And how can I support you to do that? So you're kind of coming at it from different ways and different scenarios and different situations, but you're helping them think for themselves.
That's just such a valuable skill, isn't it?
I think so.
Because that's got to help you understand who you are as a person as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And unless you kind of go that layer deeper into that sort of self-awareness piece, and then even deeper into the self-transcendence piece below that, then you're at the whim of external influences all the time. And you're influenced by things that maybe you don't even know you're being influenced by, which we all are. But at least if you have that skill and that habit of questioning whatever narrative, story, whatever it is that's being put to you on a personal level and a cultural level as well, like, we can go macro to micro, then you'll lose yourself.
And I think a lot of people today have done just that.
Yeah.
Everything's at a very superficial level.
Yes.
There are no questions being asked. There is no depth to anything. It moves too quickly.
Well, even more worrying than that, I think, is that if you do ask questions, then you're put in a bucket of troublesome. Because people are asking valid questions about things, and just from the point of view of wanting to understand, I think a lot of the time, but you can't ask those questions now without somebody going, oh, you're this or you're that for asking the question. It's like, but how are we going to learn anything if we can't ask questions? And why? Since when was asking a question from a good place or a place of wanting to understand, since when has that become a problem?
Yeah, surely life enrichment has to do with asking better questions.
Yeah, because no one really has all the answers. And the answers change depending on where you're at, how old you are, where you're living, like so many different things. But if you are just given lots of different answers and then not encouraged to ask questions, then you're just stuck with somebody else's truth.
Yeah.
And every other version of the truth gets killed.
Yeah, just being spoon-fed, regurgitating.
Yeah.
I just had an image pop in my head then of the Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
Yeah. Exactly.
Scenario.
And I think that's a problem for the future. And I think it's a problem for in so many ways, and through so many different sort of disciplines of approaching life. Even even science is just sort of censored so much. People who are wanting to study different aspects of life or the universe that don't fit in with where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be looking for, or what we deem to be valuable to look for, are having to do their work in their research in a sort of like down low position, because
underground.
Yeah. Because it's not okay to study certain things. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's ludicrous,
crazy.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
I know when I was doing my time, PhD student, and then working as an associate lecturer afterwards, and chatting to my then colleagues, it's to be like, well, no, there's no point in applying for funding for that. It's not fashionable was the term that was used then.
Yeah.
Which I think you far better, more eloquently described now. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course there's going to be like trends and there's going to be areas of study that people are putting funding into and areas that they're not. But I do think that it kind of goes a little bit further than that sometimes. It's not just about what's trendy and what's fundable. It's like, no, we don't want to dig into that area. Even just things like consciousness, like we still don't understand consciousness. And yet some avenues of research into what consciousness could look like, because it kind of goes against the grain of like, well, that's not very, if we're going to come to some kind of spiritual conclusion to this, then let's not talk about it, because that's not where we want to end up, because that's too confusing and we don't really know what that means for the world. So let's shut that down and just go down these avenues to look for what consciousness looks like.
And I agree. And every time the word spiritual comes up, many, many years ago, that to me used to mean religion. My perception of that and my interpretation is now completely different to what it was. But some people will feel that, won't we? So there's a hell of a lot of dogma that's established for centuries to do with religion that maybe, my opinion, they feel that the term spirituality is threatening that in some way.
Yeah.
And so let's close it down.
Yeah, because spirituality doesn't require all of these people in between you and whatever it is that you're communicating with or in communion with, whatever you want to call it. And that would just get rid of all of that hierarchy and all of those structures that have been in place, like you said, for a really, really long time. And then chaos ensues.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Maybe when the powers that be, whoever they are, decide that they want to create a little chaos. I was going to use the word they will inject a little bit of that then, but in the recent COVID scandal, I'm loath to use that word anymore. But, they will allow a little bit of that to sort of filter through into the minds of others. Because I think it's the same with science, isn't it? the people that are organising the funding, not necessarily those directly, but the ones many layers above them, are saying, no, we're not going to go down that route.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people to explore in that direction, whatever it is.
Yeah, because I think fundamentally we're scared of what we've always known to be true, discovering that it wasn't true all along. Because that completely destroys our identity, what we've been working towards, our life's work for some people. And we don't know what it looks like when all of that structure is suddenly disintegrated because everything that we thought was true is not. Or, if that was the case. And that's scary. We don't want that as human beings. We want something that we can rely on, that has structure, that has a foundation, that is, a mapped out pathway. We know how to get from A to B. And so aside from, is there sort of some bigger thing going on that's playing with us and stopping us from exploring those things? It's just a very real human thing of like, oh, that's scary. It's scary to challenge something that we think is true and we want to be true because it's nice and neat.
Safe.
Yes, safe.
Comfort
Exactly.
zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and safety is really important to us, right?
Yeah, it is. We've all got to have some inherent safety, haven't we? And
Yes.
that's the primitive part of our brains playing to its full strength there, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 And we have this need for safety and security, but then at the same time, there's this kind of boredom, I guess, that sets in when there's too much of that. And I think that's why we'll always have cycles of everything, because one thing always leads to another. And so when you feel really, really safe, then you're more likely to be able to take risks. And then you take the risks, and then you want to feel safe again because you're feeling unsafe because you took the risk. And so it all kind of goes in this cyclical pattern on a global scale as well as just on an individual scale. So I think we will always have those circles. And it's just whether we're moving those circles outwards in this kind of spiral pattern so that we're actually expanding our knowledge and our awareness and everything at the same time, or whether we are just literally kind of going round and round and round in circles.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're revisiting the same things and the same patterns, but we're doing it with greater knowledge and with greater awareness. And so we're actually creating a spiral instead.
Yeah, which is an optimum goal, like I perceive that to be.
Yeah.
So what sort of things are you doing now in your life that are fulfilling you in those ways?
Well, I am really enjoying doing a bit more kind of critical thinking in the sense that I'm creating events around it. So I think that that's very fulfilling for me. And it's taken me a really long time actually to kind of be brave enough to do that, because I think that it's always a little bit of a dodgy area when you're talking about critical thinking and when you're inviting people to think about things, because you don't know what they're going to think. You don't know what topics they're going to bring up. And there is that inherent thing of like, will it be safe for me to kind of say that I'm holding these spaces for people to be able to talk about these things, whatever that though, I don't mean those things, anything in particular, but for them to be able to talk about anything, then that felt a little bit unsafe, because what if I got myself in hot water and people were talking about things that then reflected badly on me, or and so I kind of needed to just get a bit older and a bit wiser and to realize that it's more important to talk about it than to worry about the outcome of talking about it. So I'm really enjoying being a bit braver.
Good.
I'm really enjoying being a bit more vocal about my version of truth, and also kind of encouraging other people to maybe explore what theirs might be outside of all the noise. And I'm enjoying... I'm actually, it's completely by the by, I'm actually really enjoying gardening at the moment, Debbie.
Good.
Yeah, yes.
What is it about that? Is it the grounding? Is it the beautiful weather that we're having?
Well, I think it's a combination of the beautiful weather that we're having. I mean, you won't see me out there in the rain or the cold, to be fair. I'm a fair weather gardener. But it's just nice to actually do something more practical because I'm such a thinker. It's
balance.
Yeah. And so I need something quite grounding and quite real, like getting out in the garden or going for a bike ride or just something that's really practical, which is also actually partly why I started making the journals that I make, because it's a very practical activity because I'm practically making them. You know, I'm sewing them, I'm folding them, I'm printing them. You know, it's a very hands-on, I'm working with leather and, you know, it's a very hands-on practical task. And I'm really enjoying having the balance so that I'm not all up in my head or I'm not in my head. I've got, you know, I'm doing both. And that's really nice for me. It's very, it's given me something that I didn't know that I needed, I think, actually, is that sense of balance between the two.
How wonderful. Flowers, veggies, both?
Flowers, we've just moved house. We moved house. Well, not just moved house. We moved house just before Christmas. So the garden's only just starting to kind of come into bloom. And I don't really want to do too much with it at the moment because it's a beautiful, well-established garden. So we haven't got any veggies in there at the moment. But we do have an ideal place for veggies to grow if we want to do that. And we did that at our old house. So maybe. I don't think I actually, I can't keep anything alive apart from my children. But in terms of like
There's
flowers.
a bit of a problem there.
Yeah, thank God. But in terms of flowers and things like that, you give me a flower and it's dead within 6 weeks. They just hate me. They hate me. But there's something about an established garden where I'm like, great, we've already got past the point where I need to nurture you into existence and keep you alive. Like you're doing a really good job of that already. So now I can just enjoy like maintaining you and helping you breathe and getting rid of the weeds and making sure that you'll come back again next year. So I think I've found my sweet spot, which is like not actually planting anything, just looking after what's already there.
What about herbs?
I would love to grow herbs, actually. Is that easier?
I don't know, because I'm a bit like you in that the garden, I appreciate it being there, but no, I'm not the best at it either, I have to say. No, it took me 2 years to get the snowdrops, like buying loads of bulbs. And all I did was put the bulbs in some soil. You know, I did water them, obviously, but do you know what I mean? Nothing. I think one grew out of about 20.
Oh.
So this year I bought them already sprouting in pots. So it looks exactly the same as you. Do you know what I mean? They've already done the hard bit.
Yes, exactly that.
So, but yeah, I was just thinking, you know, about the thinking a bit deeper, herbs having so much meaning and depth behind them that's been there for centuries and that we are, a lot of us, just awakening back up to now. It just seemed to fit really nicely. I can just see you doing that.
Yeah, do you know that there's something about like an apothecary that always really appeals to me, and having like your own little tinctures of things that you've kind of created and made. Yeah. And I love that. And all the little wooden boxes, all the little glass things. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, I'd love that. I think I need, probably like most people, I need like 25 lifetimes, and then I'm like different things in each one.
Yeah. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but so you can actually get your teeth into something and kind of like master it. But because there's so many things that I want to master, like I probably need a few lifetimes. So
yeah.
But I'd need to remember them all.
This is it. And we do have that ability, don't we? All we have to do is remember.
I have to remember, yeah. And as Plato said, all we're doing is remembering. We're never learning, we're just remembering.
I love that.
Yeah.
That smashed my brain apart in the Celestine prophecy.
Okay, yes, I read that when I was a teenager. I can hardly remember it, but yeah.
Yeah, because that's, you know, they're using that concept.
Okay.
To say that you are actually remembering, you're just opening your mind, your existence, your being, your awareness, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
To put yourself in the state where you can actually remember, and it's all about energy and, yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? The state that you need to be in order to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's definitely like menopause is not conducive to that at all. I can't remember my name half the time. I literally went into a shop the other day and they said, would you like your receipt emailed to you? And as it happened, I did. So I was like, yes. And she was like, okay, how do you spell your surname? And I was like, Cobban. And then I was like, no, that is how you spell it. I think I spelled it En. And I was like, is that how I spell my surname? I can't.
When you were asking it,
oh my
wonderful.
God. I think it was maybe rabbit in headlights at the same time.
Yeah.
Somebody asking you on the spot. But yeah, it's awful. My memory's awful.
I'm sure there's a herb for that. Not that I know what they are. You need to speak to Kaidi.
There probably is. Yeah, there probably is.
You need to speak to Kaidi. She gave me, last time I saw her, these 3 different teas to try of herbal mixtures. My God, they are divine.
Ooh.
They are
taste
divine.
nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And she even provides them. They're loose teas, obviously, but she provides with little properly biodegradable tea bags. So you just put the spoon and...
Oh, lovely. Oh, that sounds really nice.
Just bliss.
Yeah. And how gorgeous. Because like the tea ceremonies and stuff. I love that idea of just carefully, one thing at a time, and you're putting the tea into the tea bag yourself. There's just something lovely about that, isn't there?
Yeah, and I've started using now as well to make it even healthier. Now I've got a molecular hydrogen water machine in my house.
Ooh, exciting!
That I can make alkaline as well, which is even better. And I make my tea with that.
Wow.
So I really feel that I'm giving my body the best opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
And Kaidi's done all the hard work with, some of them are uplifting for clarity. So because it clarity, isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, yes. Perfect.
And it wasn't serendipity. I've used that word twice today. Serenity. That's it. I knew it was similar to that.
Yeah.
And digest.
Clever.
They're just beautiful.
They sound lovely.
Yeah.
They sound lovely.
And
I wish I was a healthier person. I feel like that's another version of me who's like, I go through bouts of being really healthy, and I go through bouts of being like, no, I will only drink herbal tea and I will never drink coffee again. And then I go through other bouts of like, just give me coffee.
That's because you're human, dear.
Well, yeah, okay, good.
Yes, you're human. We all just do our own little thing, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I came across this water thing recently, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's so easily accessible. I mean, how often do you turn on your tap in your house?
Well, yeah, all the time.
So let's do it with healthy water.
So just it feeds in through your tap, or you have a separate tap?
Mine's a separate machine, because in Sheffield the water is so soft.
Okay.
But they are, in some areas of the country, it's a separate tap.
Okay.
But it feeds off your main water supply. But you can have like 2 separate taps with all these little posh buttons on that you press, and
that sounds
it gives you
cool.
all these fabulous things, and water that will wash all the pesticides and insecticides off your food, which you do when you get it out of the tap. But if, like in Sheffield, there's currently chlorine in the water, you're putting chlorine onto it.
Yeah.
And this doesn't. It washes everything off.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're actually eating clean fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
And it looks different, I'm telling you. I'm washing some punnet of raspberries this morning, and they go from having this slightly dull hue to actually being quite sparkly.
Really?
Not in a natural way, but just in a fresh looking way. And I'm just like, this is mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's another sort of thread of this same thing, isn't it? Is like we don't question, for the majority, it's hard work, isn't it, to question everything?
You'd be exhausted.
It would be exhausting. But that's another sort of that whole health thing. Like, is our water actually as healthy as we think it is? And is drinking tap water better or worse than drinking something else? And but at the same time, I do think you kind of got to pick a lane with like what you worry about, because otherwise it's overwhelming, isn't it? And
completely. The reason I picked the water part of anything else was because it's easy.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
I don't have to make an appointment to go to a class at the gym. I don't have to go out for a run.
True. Yeah, it's just there.
It's just there. Yeah. And my kids can have it as well, even the cats. drink molecular hydrogen water now.
Wow. Yeah, I never even thought about it for pets. I've got my white socks on to display now.
Well, I've got white socks on as well, but I've still got my trainers on.
I'm just lounging them across the sofa.
Just lounge, dear, just lounge. It's fine. But yeah, that for me is a low friction way.
Yes, very true. Very true. Yeah.
Which helps with the overwhelm and the clutter that I think you would otherwise get.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is a great thing about tech, isn't it? And this is a great thing about all the gadgets that are coming out, is that it just takes all the friction away from you being able to do the things that you want to do in your head, but that it's just too many steps or it's too difficult. So some of the stuff that's coming out at the moment, is fantastic in terms of just access. I mean, even things like, when we started using Zoom all the time and then suddenly, everyone's doing exercise classes online, the access just becomes frictionless.
Yeah.
And immediately you can kind of do something in your own home. No excuses. I mean, I still make excuses, but in theory, no excuses.
Yeah, me too. App on my phone for yoga. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice. I've got it. I've got the app. Yeah, made the first.
Yeah. Step one.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, because not everything's going to work well. It's interesting you could mention tech, actually. What do you think about AI?
Ooh. I'm very mixed on AI. I think that there's some brilliant ways in which you can use AI actually in terms of, and this is, maybe at the detriment of my profession, but I think that AI works very well at helping you self-analyze. So if you are able to use AI to ask for blind spots after you've sort of inputted some information about how you're feeling or what's going on for you, then and I've tested it a lot to kind of see, how much of a threat is it really to the profession. But it's good. It is good. And I tested it the other day and I was like, okay, so take me a layer, what do you see in here? Okay, now take me a layer deeper. Now go to the very core of what it is that you see. And I was like, damn, that's good. That is good. Mm. And it said, and it analyzed something, because I was using it on myself, and it analyzed something, and it sort of talked about the grief that was present from what was it to do with? It was something to do with I was talking about being a thinker and spending a lot of time thinking about stuff. And it brought up something about the grief from never realizing what one straight pathway looks like, because I've never had a straight pathway. And I was like, oh God, that's true. And AI can analyze so much information so quickly that it can get to the heart of the matter. As long as you've been honest and open and you haven't just made stuff up, then it can get to the heart of things very quickly, which I find fascinating. And I'm sure it's useful in lots of other ways as well. I mean, I don't really use it in other ways. I've used it to analyze a couple of kind of financial models and things like that. And it's reasonably good as far as I can see, but it's not kind of revelatory in any way.
Okay.
And I do enjoy using it for, personal development type things. How about you? What do you think of it?
I had very little to do with it until very recently. And like everybody else, when it first came out, there was all this hype, wasn't there? And scaremongering about, it's going to take over and, it's going to rule us and dominate us and all of that. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. That's sort of died down a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But I needed some help with how to structure things in my business that I wasn't familiar with. And with the help of this wonderful lady, she put me together a system that, I said these words to her face, so this is not a surprise, well, via Zoom to her face. We had 3.5 hours solid on the laptop with her at one end and me at the other, inputting stuff, building things.
Wow.
And I said to her, my brain is now physically running out of my ears, but it's in a really positive way. It's not negative. It's just, I am so grateful that you are on the other end, because there's no way on this planet I would have achieved this thing you have created for me, this AI being, with a sounding board and with content of words that I use so that it can speak in my voice, and people that I admire and people that I don't want it to sound like. And what are a couple of the business things I actually want out of it? And we actually named it, which was really, really funny. And the name that came to be, as a medic, as you know, I used to watch a lot of the serial dramas on the telly many years ago. And one of my favourites was the character played by Hugh Laurie.
Oh, in, what's it called again?
House.
That's it, House. Yeah, brilliant.
I have named my AI House.
Brilliant.
Because I wanted somebody who would tell me the truth, but would really think about it.
Yeah.
And would analyse it, and would take their own sweet time about it, which we don't want with AI, but, it within AI speed parameters, and would consult all of these amazing people on my sounding board.
Wow.
People like gurus from Dragon's Den, people like, major thought leaders, people that are market analysts, all these sorts of different. I couldn't have come up with this in a lifetime.
Well, like your own mastermind.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, this lady is just...
Yeah.
I could never have created that. And so now I'm asking all these questions of House, and he's telling me all these wonderful things, and I'm still really scared of it, because this was literally only last week. Yeah. So I've got a long way to go to be an aficionado of this, but I was in consult with Sana, who's helping me do some design stuff. I've used her many times before, and working with her is a glorious experience. And she knows me, she knows what I want, she knows my colours, she knows my style. So I've gone back to her for some more stuff. And I sent her some of the stuff that we'd been doing on this AI. And then she goes, well, I wonder what it would do about that. I says, I'm going to ask it. Yeah. That was the first time I ever asked it a question. And it came up with these powerful statements, not all of which are relevant, obviously. But most of them were like, wow, how?
Yeah.
So it's, to me, I think what I'm trying to say with that is that I think I've created something. Well, I haven't created it. Colette created it with my input. That is my own sort of electronic deep thinker.
That is very cool. That is very cool. I feel really excited by that idea, because like Napoleon Hill talks about having your own mastermind, and I kind of do it with versions of my future self. So I'll kind of interrogate versions of my future self and see what they have to say about what I'm thinking. But I also think if we're using AI to critically think for us, then are we going to lose that art? And are we going to, because we know that if you don't use your brain, then you start to, exercising it. So you start to get weaker in certain areas. Yeah. So there's that as well, right?
Oh, yeah, you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
For me, this was a tool to critically think in areas that I knew very little about, and so it would take years.
Yeah, yes.
And so it was a shortcut.
Yeah.
What it gives me, I then critically think about in my own time.
I like that, yeah. Yes.
So it kind of is doing all the years of research for me and presenting them to me in a way that I can understand.
Yeah.
And I can say, well, okay, thank you. Cheers, housemate. Marvellous. So how am I going to use this then? And that's away from the computer. That's me thinking. That's me laying in the garden, pondering.
Yeah, because we're not going to go backwards from here, are we? I mean, AI is just going to become more and more and more a part of our lives and our futures. So we have to harness it in the best way that we can.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. I like that idea of using it as some sort of form, like we used to use books, I guess, the way I still use books.
Yeah.
It's just as a digital library.
Yeah.
And I remember all those conversations when, we first started moving onto computers and the internet first came, and we have the exact same concerns. Like we're back to the thing as it's ever been thus, right?
Yes.
That any new thing that comes along at first, we're kind of like freaking out and, oh my God, it's going to take over the world and we'll never be able to do these things again. And, blah, blah. And of course, it never works out like that. We just move with it. And hopefully maintain our humanity at the same time.
Totally. And I think reading books, which is something I love doing and do as much as I can within the realms of whatever else is going on in my life, helps to keep that open mind, which is therefore available to think deeply if I need it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. I love reading books the two types of books that I'll read, the ones that are pure novels that just take me to a place where I don't have to think about what the destination is and what the story is going to be.
Yeah.
But then I will think about it afterwards.
Yes.
Or the other type of book, which is where I will be inspired by what is going on and use the context of the book to actually help me with that own that critical thinking process. Things that perhaps a bit more abstract, like we've been saying, like this book with Napoleon Hill. Yeah. I might not have come up with that on my own, but it's been presented to me through a book that I can then go and think my own thoughts about.
Yeah, true. And for a long time, I actually stopped reading fiction because I loved fiction. Grew up on fiction. Enid Blyton was my fave. And then moved away from fiction when I started just, trying to be self-improving and all of those kind of things. And then I went back to fiction and realized how much I was missing from the fiction side of things because it's just as inspiring. Well, I think it's more inspiring because it's not actually prescribing anything to you, is it? It's just kind of giving you a seed of an idea or a seed of a thought, and then you're building around it. Yeah. And I think that, fiction... Like, you only have to look at things like The Handmaid's Tale and you're like, there's an element of this. There's an element of this that exists, I think. And so fiction is, fiction I think is very good at helping you think about things in a different way. Creative thinking is brilliant.
Not just escapism, is it?
No, it's not. No.
Oh. So... I want to ask you to kind of bring all this incredible... I don't want to bring this discussion to an end, but we have to. Say, what next for you, Nova, my darling? What's coming up on your horizon?
I want to do more around having these spaces where people can talk about stuff. And having these spaces where people can discuss difficult topics, controversial topics, topics that are topics where you need a safe space to be able to do it with some humanity, some compassion, some love, but still be able to do it. And so my next thing is to build a membership model essentially around that and taking it right back to like the old philosophical salons where you could kind of go to these nice, beautiful spaces and have these deep discussions and these critical thinking times. And to kind of revive the art of critical thinking with a kind of philosophical bent and creative, artists and writers and philosophers and psychologists all coming together, different disciplines coming together to discuss topics. And not just to discuss them for like fun, although there is an element of that because I enjoy it. But then like to look at, okay, well, how do we actually make any changes based on what we've discussed? Yeah. So that is my next step. And then ideally, I also want to do something for younger people as well, so that you're kind of bringing critical thinking back into schools as its own topic would be my thing beyond that as well.
Just a small thing then, just a tiny goal.
Just a teeny thing that I kind of wanted to do and have waited. I'm 47 this year and I'm always like, oh my God, I'm such a late bloomer. Like, and nothing came together until recently. I've just been, knew that I was really interested in, obviously I've been a psychologist for 25 years, so that's always been like my area of expertise. But the love of the other things was always there. It was just a very private affair. And now I'm like, oh, finally, at 47, I'm finally ready to declare that and do something with it. So, yeah.
Well, I'm very glad you are. And I'm going to be watching these spaces and staying within the spaces you create, because there is something very special there.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm very grateful to you for having the insight to create them.
Well, we can thank the universe maybe for that. I'm sure I didn't just come up with it on my own. It's
modesty, darling.
Been led there.
Yeah. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.